Here. I have a friend and a very knowledgeable subject matter expert as it comes to e-commerce and technology and reporting and all sorts of good stuff that I thought would be interesting for you guys to hear from. His name is Chad Buckendahl. Known him for many, many years, and he's more than just an acquaintance. Chad's my friend. We've had the chance to spend quite a bit of time working together on projects relating to analytics and reporting and e-commerce. Prior to his role at Sticky.io. Chad, why don't you take a second and give everybody a little bit of your background, and then we'll jump into, what are some of the things that somebody who is either selling or buying a business should be considering when they're looking at that acquisition process, specifically as it relates to the technology of it, the shopping cart, the analytics, the reporting, and we'll get into some other stuff too.
Cool. Yeah. So, just real brief on my background. I started selling products for the first time online in 1997 with insurance leads with New York Life and Unum America. I then took a role with Whole Foods Market. It's actually a company that Whole Foods bought called Amrion. And I quickly gravitated towards the internet stuff because it was brand new at the time, and built the very first e-commerce property for Whole Foods. We ran that thing from 0 to $1 million in no time. We got more responsibility. Got a second site with Whole Foods, and then just by chance, I went to a company called OxyClean and did the same thing there. We stood up 4 different brands with them. OxyClean, Kaboom, and a couple of other brands. So I felt like I had a pretty good branded experience. I knew how to stand up branded e-commerce site, but I heard a thing called CPA marketing, and that's how it was presented to me. So I'm like, this sounds interesting. So I went to a company called Video Professor, and they really were at the cutting edge of the CPA game with a risk-free trial. And I really cut my teeth in the risk-free trial space there with Professor. And then went and built a company for Josh Bizzoni, who's pretty well known in the space. Learned a ton from Josh, and also, as a risk-free trial offer. And then I got tired. And when I got tired, I decided to do something different and built a fulfillment company called Two Chats Fulfillment, which we all know now as QuickBox. And I got a call from Brian Bogosian through you, Nate. And I'm sure we'll get into that story. Yep. That's interesting altogether. But I've been at Limelight Sticky for the last 5 years since you introduced me to Brian, and served various roles here. So and today, the topics that you have lined out there, they sound super interesting. I'm looking forward to diving in.
Yeah, we'll get to that in just a second. For those of you watching, my own mergers and acquisition journey includes Chad. I started a reporting platform where I was extracting data from the Limelight CRM shopping cart back in 2015 or so. Chad had shown me some spreadsheets that he had worked on back in the Video Professor days and stuff, and I just was like, my mind was blown at the level of detail and how he was able to derive profitability at a very finite level, like down to the media creative or the affiliate level, depending on whether you're running your own traffic or if you were using affiliates. And I hired Chad actually right before Thanksgiving to come down and spend some time with me to help me build out a kind of a key performance indicator reporting system so I could more effectively manage my e-commerce company. And we got into all sorts of, nuts and bolts on the discrepancies in the stock reporting for shopping carts, built some reporting from the ground up. It got into the details of how the architecture of it should work, where the calculations should work. It got into a lot of the infrastructure part of that, like did the calculations sit on the database side? Did they sit in the graphical user interface side? That enabled the end product called Offer Profit, which I ran for a period of time, and also had a number of clients on it as well. That ended up turning into my exit product. I sold it to Limelight CRM, now called Sticky. And when they were looking for long-term transitionary support, I had my plate completely full with my own e-commerce company. So I introduced them to Chad, and they ended up hiring Chad. And because he had the thorough knowledge of the reporting system from, start to finish, helping me with that. And it's amazing. 5 years later, you're still with the company, and you've moved on to doing some other amazing things. But just to give a little context on how all this happened and where we're going with it, the intent of this video is just as, share some more knowledge for anyone in the e-commerce universe about what goes into the reporting side, the analytics side, and we'll talk a little bit about the technology side of these businesses. And this can be useful for a buyer who's going through the acquisition process in their due diligence process. This can also be useful for a seller to understand, how the reporting can then be helpful, for them in running the business, or how the underlying technology can sometimes increase their ROI for running the business, or areas that they should be, under what rocks they should be looking for. So I think we'll jump into it and kind of go straight for, our super topic about the analytics. And just kind of curious, Chad, thinking back on, how as at Sticky, you guys have a really thorough analytics platform. Of course, the company acquired what was called Offer Profit and then built on it. It's leaps and bounds above, what we did back in 2015. But maybe you can talk a little bit, and I don't think we have to get into super detailed level about it, but, can you share with us a little bit about the thought that goes into the analytics and the reporting for the platform as it stands today? How new reports are requested or identified. It really anywhere you want to go with that, because I think wherever we hit here, it's going to be at a deeper level than most people are considering. Usually the requests that I see from buyers are they just want CSV files out of a Shopify store or Seller Central if it's Amazon. And I know this will be pertinent to people who have, other, either homegrown shopping carts or those types of systems, or also, these other systems.
I've been there. I've been in that role where you really have to make the decision. What's more important, analytics or some of this other stuff that I want? And I guess if you take one thing away from this part of the discussion, it's really seriously consider when you have that, when you're at that point of making that decision, should I work on this other thing, or, commit resources to analytics? Do give that analytics thought some serious thought, because I see a lot of mistakes happen in that area. And I'm sure you do too, Nate, where a lot of these companies, they just don't, these operators, the companies, they don't get analytics, so they consistently put it on the back burner because they're marketing minds, right? They're brilliant marketing minds, and all those creative energies are flowing, and they want to do X, Y, and Z, and not really focus energy on the analytics side. But I talk to hundreds of clients, operators a year, and I can tell you that it does matter. These successful operators are really focused on the analytics side. So the good work that you did with Offer Profit back in the day was pretty telling. I mean, you launched Offer Profit, and a lot of people started to really see you as the go-to platform for analytics. And those clients that you look at, Nate, from way back then, those were very successful marketers, and there's something to that. And I am always fascinated every time I talk to a new person in the space where they do approach it from an analytical perspective. You just know that they're going to be successful. And so, like how we approach analytics at Sticky is probably no different than how a lot of companies approach it. But for me to talk about how we approach it, I think you have to understand that we early on, Brian, when he bought Limelight, he identified the reporting pieces being probably not up to snuff, and you're way privy to the early conversations with Brian, but that says something about a platform that is committed to the analytics. We evolved like a lot of these companies have over the years. We started with descriptive analytics, basically basic reports. We then got into diagnostic analytics, basically analyzing and monitoring data. And some of that was certainly apparent with Offer Profit and that platform. But most recently, Nate, I think the more interesting parts of my role as it applies to analytics is looking at the predictive part of it, the predictive component, and we're actually getting into the prescriptive as well. So it's a heck of a lot of fun having a bunch of data to look at, and that's a big reason why I've been here for 5 years, because there's so much data to look at that you can really analyze that data and build strong predictive models. You can really use these models to help clients succeed, where in the past, that you would get asked a question, you can give your opinion, or you can give your opinion from your data set. But now you're speaking from a position of authority, or we are, because we can, not just from our own experiences, but we can talk about the aggregated data, and not just the aggregated data, but what the predictive components of that aggregated data tell us. So there's a level of sophistication in data today that there wasn't when you and I were talking, what was that, 5-6 years ago?
Yeah.
Just a whole new level. So yeah.
I was just going to say, you guys have a data science team, that's constantly improving and expanding on your reporting and analytics. And I think this is important to learn a little bit about, because as you kind of mentioned, I'm going to iterate this too, or reinforce this. Probably the most successful online e-commerce, retail-based companies, start their day with the analytics and the performance of their business, whether that be looking back yesterday, or looking back, in a further period of time. Just like you had mentioned, the most successful ones are data driven. They're very analytical. They are marketing focused. They're profit focused, and in order to support that, having a very deep understanding of it, having a support team like what you guys have, I think is certainly impressive. So maybe you can share a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So we have, like you said, we've got a whole data science team. There's one data scientist who is brilliant. His name's Justin, just superb. But the data science comes from him. So he's doing predictive modeling and that type of thing, and he leads the team. But then we've got a data engineer, which is really important. It sounds boring, but it's important, because the integrity of the data and understanding the schema of the data is critical to proper analytics. And anyone who knows what they're talking about will tell you that. And then we've got, a reports person, somebody who's hammering out reports, knows how to build them to, not just a specification, but for optimal business use. So that between that, that team, they also leverage other members of the organization to really find out what is needed in the marketplace, because you can't, I think that was one of the hardest things early on is, okay, what reports do people want to see, right? What do they want to see? And then if I call something X, do they call it Y? And so that nomenclature, the formulas, all this stuff, the dashboards that are important, all this stuff has to be socialized and vetted amongst clients, amongst industry professionals, so that when we go and we build a dashboard and publish that out to the sticky community, we know that it's gonna be well received. You know what I mean, Nate? It's you can't just get into it. You can't just hammer out these reports and then push it out and expect it to be, something that is earth shattering to a user.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's absolutely right.
Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to subscribe and tell me what you thought about it in the comments. Your comments encourage me to continue posting videos, and they give me ideas about what to post next. I read and reply to every single one. Also, if you own an online business and you're curious of how much it's worth, click the link below to get a free business valuation with a member of our team.